Hello, Dr. Joan Borysenko.
Hi there. How are you today?
Very, very good. This is exciting. We're all so excited to be speaking with you today. You're definitely a pioneer, best-selling author, and very, very inspiring person. I know that we don't have much time right now to speak, but we'll meet in person over in Chicago. And for now, I had a question for you regarding what's going on right now with our society, and where do you think what is this crisis about for you?
Well, clearly it's a crisis where we're shifting from one state of organization to another, because when I was born, which was back in 1945, people were organized in small communities. Of course, this was years before the Internet. We were not very culturally aware of other cultures or aware of diversity within our own culture, Lilou. Mm-hmm. And in a very brief period of time, within 50 years, all of that shifted. And then on top of that, of course, there's been tremendous degradation of the environment. And we're at a place on the population curve where really it's not sustainable to have so many people on one small spaceship Earth. So we are at a definite point of shift where everything is breaking down. And because we're at that point, we have a tremendous opportunity to reorganize things in a way that works better for us all. And, let's see how many years ago, maybe 25, 30 years ago already now, there was a wonderful physicist by the name of Ilya Prigogine, who got a Nobel Prize for what he calls the theory of dissipative structures. Mm-hmm. And what that is that he showed that every time you get a shift, a jump to what he called a higher order of organization, whether you're looking at a solar system, whether you're looking at atoms, whether you're looking at a society, things can't jump to a higher order unless the current order breaks down so that energy is freed. So we're right now in a period of breakdown, and it can go either way. It can reorganize itself as a breakthrough, or it can lead to a prolonged period of difficulty. And the difference in what happens is up to each one of us, that, we're able to do what we need to do in our own life, everything from the emotional level to the spiritual level to the very practical level, from how can we be resilient in these times of change, how can we work in partnership with a higher perspective rather than giving into more primitive, like ego fears. Yeah. And how can we cooperate with others? So we're right at this point now, a big shift.
So what is our day-to-day choice? How should we make that decision for this new world to happen? I mean, is there something, a behavior or something that we can do or ask ourselves or practice every day to help this change?
Absolutely, Lilou. There are two basic aspects, I think, of every human being. And that is, there's a part of us that is completely unlimited. That's the part of us that's connected to a much larger field of intelligence. And we all connect with that from time to time. We get into a flow state. We know things not through our intellect or through logic, but in a more intuitive way. And that's how we get guidance. That's how guidance from within comes forth. And when we look for that guidance and cooperate with it, then we know what's the next most elegant step that I need to take today or tomorrow or next week. The difficulty for many of us is that we're so busy, we don't take any time for stillness, and then it's hard. You can only connect with this field, this larger, unified and field. The portal to it is the present moment. So the practice we need is to get into the present. If we don't do that, what tends to happen, particularly in times of great change and shift, is that all of us we become fearful, and we start to cope in a more primitive way. like we did when we were children. And this does not lead to anything good. It leads to decisions made out of impatience, decisions made out of fear. Mm-hmm. And those are the kinds of decisions that in this time are particularly harmful. They can really sink the ship. Mm. So what we need to be doing is constantly taming our own fear, coming into the present moment and listening for guidance. So, for example, before our phone conversation, mm-hmm. I did what I need to do in the mornings this time of year to come into that state of presence, and that is my husband Gordon and our 2 dogs and I a mountain this morning and got to a beautiful place where there was a 360-degree view, and that was a walking mindfulness meditation. Every step brought us deeper into the present moment. Now I feel that from that calm, expanded place, I can make better choices today, whatever they are. Mm-hmm. And I can follow what the Sufis would think of as the integration of love, harmony, and beauty. That whatever I'm doing, the question is, okay, is this loving? Does it lead to an increase in consciousness? Does it lead to something good for all? Mm-hmm. Is it harmonious? And is it beautiful? Is there an elegance to it? And that's how I follow my guidance, is looking for that.
Can you tell us about the wisdom of the heart?
Well, I would say, when people talk about the heart, the first thing that we think about, Lilou, is love and compassion. Mm-hmm. And that's really what that larger field is all about. If you've ever had an experience of letting go of what your mind is doing for a while because you were maybe taking a walk out on a mountain, or maybe for me I had a near-death experience when my mother died and I went to the light with her. Mm. Many ways, big and small, that we touch this field. That the experience of it is always an experience of unconditional love. Mm. And when I think about, okay, what is it? What is the wisdom of the heart? It is connecting deeply with that field. And that field, of course, we're part of it. It's our own true nature. So rather than identifying with, our false self, the limits that we put on ourselves, the ways that we criticize ourselves, the agendas that we have, when we follow the wisdom of the heart, we let go of some of our thinking and some of our planning. And instead, we align ourselves with that larger source of unconditional love. And that's when intuition really comes through. And we know what it is that we need to do. And that's the wisdom of the heart. And, of course, I make it sound easy. It's not all so easy, because discerning the difference between the wisdom of the heart and the spirit of guidance versus our own ego desires and what it is that we want is not always so simple.
Mm-hmm. So how can we find out if that's the right voice and the right guidance? How does it feel like inside?
Well, that's a great question. I think the best way to do this is, it's like the Buddha said, you have to experiment. Don't take anybody's word for anything anyhow. Experiment and see what's true for you. What I like to do is, when I feel like, okay, I've just gotten a piece of guidance, and it's not exactly what my ego has thought about. It's not exactly what I want to do. I'm going to make a decision one way or another. Sometimes I decide to go with the guidance, and sometimes I'm too fearful for whatever reason. And then a little time passes, and I see what the result was. Okay, did I make a choice that expanded the goodness, the love, the possibilities, or did I make a choice where those actually contracted? And then I begin to learn what comes up for me. What does it feel like when I make these choices? What are the things that encourage me to choose for for getting into the flow of that larger intelligence? What are the things that come up that put my ego in charge? And then, of course, you brought up something very important, and that is, what is the actual feeling sense in the body? Because the body is really the interface between our manifest life here on Earth and that larger field of intelligence. And so the question I ask myself is, all right, what does it feel like when I'm part of that field? And there is a certain feeling in my body of connectedness, of spaciousness, often of gratefulness. There's a little bit of excitement. There's a lot of awe. Whereas when I choose from the ego, sometimes there's a lot of excitement. And I've had to learn over time to discern between two different types of excitement. One of them is that kind of excitement of, wow, I'm going to get something now. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to grab it. And that's often the voice of an ego, not the voice of your essence. So we all need to learn to pay close attention. It's really paying attention that's the training ground here.
What are you? Could you leave us with just a last message, or something that you're yourself working on, or that you're seeing in the world that is inspiring you? Or
I can. First of all, I just want to say to your listeners, if they're interested more in understanding guidance, they can get the book that I wrote with my husband, Gordon DeVaron, where we interviewed 27 lineage holders from different traditions, both males and females. So Hindus and Buddhists and Sufis and Jews and Christians and Quakers. We asked questions about just what you've been asking me. How do you know the difference between ego and something larger? What are the practices that you need? So that book is called Your Soul's Compass. What is spiritual guidance? The other thing I'd like to say to people, the book that I'm working on right now.
Yeah, what is this?
It's a book that is called Fried. So many of us, you say, how are you? And somebody will say, I'm just fried. There's so much going on, I can't keep up with it. I feel like giving up. And so the title of the book is Fried, and the subtitle is Why You Burn Out and How to Revive. Because here's the truth. If we're fried, if we cannot manage all the input that comes in, if the distance between the life that we have and the one that we would want to see is so great that we become despairing of ever reaching it, then we become helpless, then we lose heart. And that's the biggest block to guidance and to creating a shift in these times that's so needed. So for all your listeners who are fried, I sympathize. That's why I've written this book.
Awesome. Well, I really look forward to meeting you in person and doing a video interview with you here in Chicago.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you and doing something on video. It's going to be a lot of fun.